Hello, everyone, and good evening. I hope you're all ready for a fantastic session with Dr. Grimes. Dr. Grimes, can I invite you to? Oh, yes, you've put your screen on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, let me welcome everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining GAA London's health webinar this evening. Um, We've got Dr. Grimes, as I've just mentioned. He's a consultant physician with East Lancashire Hospital. He's retired now, but I believe he still consults with them. And why have we invited Dr. Grimes on to tonight's session? We've had Dr. Grimes. We've had many people on over the last few weeks. We've had pharmacists on giving a webinar talk. We've had chiropractors coming on giving us a talk. We've had nutritionists coming on giving us a talk. And basically, what was central to their conversation was make sure you get sufficient vitamin D. And hence my invitation to you to join our webinar. And thank you for rejoining us because you took a very nice session for us last year. But because it's very topical, I thought we'd invite you back again and to cover this important topic of vitamin D, but we're going to cover it in a different way because I know last time we looked at the chronology of cardiovascular disease and the impact and the benefits that vitamin D can have on cardiovascular disease. This session, I thought what we would do is talk about vitamin D in a more basic level and then build up a little bit to your studies and for the benefit of all those participants on this call, Dr. Grimes is, I would say, one of the leading experts on vitamin D in the UK, written many papers, books, and appears on many television programs and webinars. So we're delighted to have him on board. Um, David, I'm going to do it in a couple of ways. So I'm going to ask some questions to you, and maybe then you can cover that particular topic. We'll open up for questions from the audience. And audience, please raise your hand if you've got a question, or please put it into the chat. And between Bunna and myself, we'll pick up those questions. And then I'll sort of I think the conversation will evolve, and I think Dr. Grimes also has some more information that he'd like to share with us, and I think he'll be sharing some slides with us as well. So without further ado, I'm going to start and open the floor up and just ask, what is vitamin D, Dr. Grimes? It's sort of everyone knows that it's being a source that they need to supplement their well-being, but what is it? What is a source of vitamin D and why is it crucial to our bodies?
Well, that's what I'm proposing to talk about this evening. One thing to start with, I'm delighted to hear that previous speakers on your channel are aware of the importance of vitamin D, because that is very new. What has given us a lot of information about vitamin D is the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Um, Lessons have been learned from that, but not by government, unfortunately, and not by the official medical media. And I'll show you why that is as well. But as far as I'm concerned, I learned a huge amount, and so did other people. And vitamin D is really, its importance has sort of taken off since 2020. And that's brought me in because I knew it all. No, I didn't know it all at all. I knew a lot about it before 2020. I've been researching it for 30 years by then. But since 2020, we've known a lot more, and there's been a lot more communication around the world concerning vitamin D, and also the disadvantage of the South Asian community in this country has come to the light to join this time. Now you say, what is vitamin D? Well, I'm very happy to show you a long series of slides. They're not boring slides. I could just talk, but to be quite honest, you might fall asleep. If I've got a picture to show or words to show, subtitles, then I think that would be much more meaningful.
Sure,
It's
sure.
possible for me to talk around a presentation.
That'd be perfectly fine. Please, yeah. We've made you co-host, so feel free to share your slides.
I'm not sure how to
Oh,
display it all. That's the trouble.
that's okay. Can you see the green arrow at the bottom of your Zoom screen, which says share? Can you see that? Can you see the menu panel at the bottom? One will be audio, one will be video, one will be
Oh,
participants.
share, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
It isn't green, it's white. Never
Oh, it's
mind.
white in your one. Okay, fair enough.
So I'm going to allow that.
Yes, please.
Aha. There we are. I think I've got it. So if I do that,
Yeah.
I think you'll have to just enlarge your screen your end because all we can see is some of the thumbnail. That's the one. There you go. There you go. So we can see the heading healthcare disadvantages of
just a
Black,
minute.
African, and South Asian ethnicity.
Just, what if I do that?
That's perfect. Even better.
So click on the black arrow whenever you were ready to move on to another slide.
Is that moved on to another slide?
It has done,
Yes.
yes.
Well, that's just on mine, yeah. That's fine, okay. So I can talk now, can I?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we had this piece of information on the, I'm not quite sure, on the internet or in one of the newspapers, that 90% of doctors warn that health inequalities are harming patients. That's brilliant that 90% of doctors are aware of this. Tackling health inequalities. That's very important. There are some very serious health inequalities. And the governments don't appear to acknowledge the problem. I'll come on to that again. It's criminal. But the answer to it all is vitamin D, about health inequalities. This must be 90% of the answer. Now, what is it? Okay, now, if the government were to take it on board, it's very rare to have an answer to a major problem that will help so many people so quickly, so safely, and so cheaply. Sorry. What is vitamin D? Now, vitamin D is an oil that is produced in the skin. Simple. But only when the sun shines on exposed skin. The sun does not go through clothes. Clothes will stop vitamin D production. It's got to be exposed skin. And that does have cultural issues. It's also, when you're in the UK, it's only in the summer that the sun produces vitamin D. And that is when the midday sun is high in the sky. So in the wintertime, when the sun is low, we don't produce vitamin D in this country. And now it's been a sunny day today, but the sun isn't really very high in the sky as yet. What it means is that if your shadow is longer than your height, then you'll produce vitamin D. No, I'm sorry, the wrong way around. If your shadow is longer than your height, the sun is low in the sky, and then you will not produce vitamin D. It's only when your shadow is short that you produce vitamin D. In the tropics, vitamin D is produced all the year round. The sun is much higher in the sky, as you know. Dark skin reduces the production of vitamin D, the same way that clothing does. And the elderly, the skin produces less vitamin D than in the younger people. What vitamin D is this. It's what's called a hormone, a chemical messenger that circulates in the blood, and it controls the activity of many parts of the body. These include the immune system, most importantly, the immune system, which controls infection and it controls cancer. Vitamin D also controls the bones, bone production, brain activity, and most important, perhaps of all, pregnancy. Vitamin D is also found in the diet and in seafood, fish and prawns. So if people do not get sun exposure of the skin of the body, then they must eat plenty of seafood, fish, prawns, but it means lots of seafood. It really means seafood 2 or 3 times a day. Now, vegans have a problem, but some fungi produce vitamin D. It's not very dependable, I'm afraid, and it's best if the fungi is exposed, or like mushrooms are exposed to the sun before they're consumed, before they're eaten. It's a good idea to have a blood test for vitamin D, find out how much you have. It's like if you think you have diabetes, it's important to have a blood test. And the blood levels of vitamin D are ideally between 100 and 150 nanomoles per litre. That's the usual UK unit used in North America and Canada and the United States. It's often expressed as 40 to 60 nanograms per mil. But in this country, between 100 and 150 nanomoles per litre. To achieve that, no, hardly anyone has a good blood level of vitamin D in this country without taking a supplement. And if we want to take a supplement, 3,000 to 4,000 units each day is ideal. A convenient way to take it, which is what I do, is to take 20,000 unit capsule just once a week. But it's important to keep to units. If you go to some pharmacies, especially Boots, they will have micrograms, not units. And micrograms are very confusing. And I've put down here the abbreviations. Not many people know what a microgram is. It's a tiny, tiny amount. In fact, with vitamin D, 1 unit of vitamin D is 20 billionths of a gram, which is, you can't even see it. But avoid micrograms. And if you're asking in a pharmacy, I say, I'd avoid going to Boots because they have low dose and in micrograms. If you go to a pharmacy, a normal retail pharmacy, and ask for 3,000 or 4,000 units a day, it should be quite easy. Now, back to the story of health inequalities. I'm just going to switch off my audio for a moment. Just a minute. I can't do it.
Did you mean you wanted to stop sharing the screen?
No. Good. No, I think we're all right again now, aren't we? No. Just a minute. I don't a mess of this. Back to the story of health inequalities. Fine. Now, we had this. Can you see the picture all right?
Yes.
It's okay, is it?
Yes, we can.
Right. Right. This appeared in the newspaper in 2020, soon after COVID started. surgeon dies in Wales. The first healthcare worker in Wales to die from COVID-19. This was in the newspaper. Soon after that, we saw this. We saw, oh, no, we didn't see all these at the same time. All these were announced in the media, dying from COVID-19. All these doctors who had died. I collected all the photographs from the newspapers. And a bit later, it was all this. At this point, there were, I think it was 14 doctors had died from COVID-19. And of the 14, 13 were South Asian or Black African ethnicity. Only one was white. Now, that's not chance at all. There's a big problem there, a very big problem. And it just went on like this. And then I saw in the paper this photograph of the Muslim cemetery in Bradford. And it was heartbreaking to see this. All these people dying of COVID all at the same time. It was just dreadful. Oldham Hospital, not far from where I live here in the Northwest. The average Black African or South Asian patients, the average South Asian patients died 30 years younger than their white counterparts on average. 30 years younger. That's not chance. There's a big structural problem there. And I collected a lot of information on the deaths of UK doctors from the British Medical Journal. And what I found was these are the number of doctors. There were 25 doctors, I think it is, whose deaths were reported in the British Medical Journal as dying from COVID-19. 12 were ethnic white and 12 were ethnic Black African or South Asian. Sorry, 13 were. Age ranges that you can see. The average age of the ethnic white was 91. The average age of the ethnic Black African South Asian was 62. Once again, 30 years difference. You know, this should have provoked a national scandal, but it didn't. It was quiet. Nobody bothered. The government took no notice. The people who are in charge of public health in this country took no notice whatsoever. The doctors who hadn't died should have been jumping up and down with this knowledge and to the government and demanding that action should be taken, but it didn't happen. There were 3 reports into deaths from COVID-19, but not a single one mentioned vitamin D, which is the key to it all. This again shows the deaths. Each blue column is one person, the top being the age. And we can see again the big difference between the white and the Black African Southeast Asian. Now, I got this information from the British Medical Journal, from the death records, but this is not available on a national data because ethnicity is not recorded as part of death statistics. People say, well, usually people say, well, it's part of racism if we record ethnicity on death statistics. Well, it's part of racism if we don't, because by not recording ethnicity on death statistics, we are hiding the problem. We're keeping it hidden under the carpet. We're making sure that nobody knows about it. This again, it's criminal. This doesn't happen. But we've got to take the best information that's available, and that's what I'm presenting to you. We hope that more robust statistics come along in the future, but at the moment, no sign of that. So this is, again, 2020, and each blue line, or the blue lines represent Black African and South Asian doctors dying from COVID-19. I mean, it started on the 25th of March. Two doctors, 2-1. On the 8th of April, it was 3 doctors died. And on the Black Arrow, this was an email was sent out to all doctors. Now, in this country, we have an association called BAPIO, British Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. And I happen to know one of them in particular, was the secretary of it. And I also know another professor who had a lot of vitamin D available. And I got the statistics, and I informed the other two, and the email went out from BAPIO to all doctors of Asian origin, of Indian origin, telling them they must take 100,000 units of vitamin D now, just a single dose straight off. And my colleague, David Anderson, he provided it. And as you can see, the deaths stopped. They just stopped. The next one was in September. So it wasn't a problem. So the doctors were busy taking vitamin D, but they weren't passing information on to the patients very readily. I'm going to have to interrupt once again because my iPad, my MacBook is running out of power, low battery. Sorry, I should have set this up beforehand, but I failed to do so. 1 minute. Jenny? Jenny? I want your help. I'm in the lounge now. What? Firstly, I want a drink.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope we do find the session informative, practical, and inspiring. Please have your questions ready or raise your hand. As you all know, in the UK, where sunlight is limited for much of the year, what are the most effective ways for people to maintain healthy vitamin D levels? We're going to ask that to Dr. Grimes. Hopefully he has an answer for us.
Back to you for a question. On it.
There we are. Can you hear me again now?
Yes, you're on
Good.
again.
I'm back with my computer on power. I'm sorry, it was very careless of me to do that. Now, let me just see. Yeah.
Yes.
So the doctor stopped dying. Sorry, did someone ask me a question?
No,
it's okay.
that's fine. Don't worry.
I'll skip over the. I'll mention to you that not many people have a good blood level of vitamin D in this country. This graph is made up of a lot of vertical grey lines on the bottom, and each one is a different height. And the height determines the amount of vitamin D in the blood. And so we can see, if we want to get this blood level of 40 nanograms, we can see where it is, which is 100 nanomoles. It's in the green rectangle. We can see the number of people who've got a normal ideal blood test. And the average is right down here. The average is 18. And that is the white population in my locality. If we look at the South Asian population, it's tiny. Only half a dozen people had a decent blood level. And the average then was 9. So it's staggering how common vitamin D deficiency is. Staggering. In fact, the one I remember in particular, a man who was in this high level, much to my surprise, was a man from Bangladesh. And I asked him why he's got a good blood level. I said, do you take vitamin D? He said, no. I said, do you eat fish? Oh, yeah, I eat fish 3 times a day. So what fish do you eat? I said, I eat Bangladeshi whitefish. How strange. Well, where'd you get it from? I get it from Tesco. So I went along to Tesco in Accrington, and there was the Bangladeshi whitefish, and it works, as long as you're taking it 3 times a day. So very, very common is vitamin D deficiency. And when it gets down to this level, below 10 there, it is a very serious problem. Now, all those excess deaths in COVID-19 that we've seen, could the cause be serious vitamin D deficiency? Of course it could, because we know that serious vitamin D deficiency is very common, and we know that vitamin D is essential for immunity and infection control. And here we are, a leading man in the country, a leading man, professor of primary care, diabetes and vascular medicine at the University of Leicester, a member of SAGE, the UK Scientific Advisory Group in Emergencies, very important body advising government on what to do. Now, what we had towards the end of 2020 was the annual meeting of BAPIO, the British Association, in November. And he addressed the meeting to Professor Kunti. And he was asked the question, could the problem within the Asian ethnic group be due to vitamin D deficiency? Because the problem had been outlined, this ill health, this excess deaths. Could it be due to vitamin D deficiency? And Professor Kunti's answer was this. The official line is that there is no role for vitamin D. That was a disgraceful answer, but it told us an awful lot. He didn't give his own opinion at all. And he should have known all about it. And he probably did know all about it. And he was almost certainly taking vitamin D. He's not a stupid man. He's a well-educated man. He should have known all about vitamin D. And I'm sure he was taking it. But he was what they call drinking wine and preaching water. He was not telling anybody what he knew. He had to give the official line. If he'd have said, well, the official line is no role for vitamin D, but in my opinion, there's a very big role for it. Well, he would not get a knighthood. And I'm sure what he's wanting out of life now is a knighthood or a peerage. And the government would have jumped on him had he hadn't said anything good about vitamin D. Well, that's the expression, drinking wine while preaching water. Another one, SAGE, the body that he has, that he's a member of, dismissed the rumours that BAME people were more at risk of COVID-19 due to deficiency of vitamin D. No evidence. No evidence, they said. for people who are more at risk of vitamin D due to risk of COVID-19 due to vitamin D deficiency. Again, that's the leading body in the country. It's just dreadful. There is evidence that this is just not true. The government minister, Matt Hancock, claimed that government experts ran unsuccessful trials of vitamin D. That means trials which showed no benefit from vitamin D. But it simply wasn't true. It was a lie. No such study had taken place. It was a lie, but there we are. Matt Hancock, he didn't get the sack for saying that, but it was just a lie. And it put back the cause of vitamin D a long way. And it led to the nation to fail to protect the people of South Asian ethnicity. Then he says structural racism. I don't think structural racism led to the woeful impact of COVID. Overexposed, underprotected, stigmatized, and overlooked. Minority ethnic people they weren't overexposed, they were just as exposed as everybody else. They were underprotected, they most certainly were underprotected because they weren't vitamin D. They weren't, and they were overlooked in that respect. They're overlooked only by public health, not by conventional medicine. Yeah. A nursing sister in Bolton Hospital on the COVID ICU ward. All staff received a letter telling them to take vitamin D when we were all locked down. Well, something was done anyway to protect the staff of the hospital, but not to protect the patients, not to protect the general public.
Dr. Grimes, can I pause you there for a minute?
Yeah.
I just want to ask individuals here, and there's quite a few questions that are coming, clearly very topical, but I want to sort of run a quick poll, if I may, and hopefully you can see this on your screen. So back to Dr. Grimes's point about being advised by your physicians, or lack of being advised. I want to ask the public, has your doctor advised you as an individual to increase your vitamin D intake to improve your health? And I just want to see and get a straw poll of how many of us are being, guided by our physicians here. So again, I'm just going to repeat, what are your doctors saying to you as individuals? Has your doctor advised you to increase your vitamin D intake to improve your health? And you could have a variety of conditions, but as part of that diagnosis, have they asked you to improve your vitamin D intake? So we're running this poll, David, we're making it live to see, what advice people are getting. And so far, 32 people have responded, which is great because we've got about 90 participants on this call, and a third of them have responded to this poll. And basically, 70% have not been advised by their GPs to take vitamin D.
Mhm.
I suspect that doesn't surprise you at all.
No, it doesn't, I'm afraid.
Yeah. It's interesting. So it goes to your point that we're not being clearly advised, don't know the big rationale for it. We can have theories on that, but not sure. But it's interesting. That's what's happening in the real world. There's a few questions that have come up. Maybe we can take them now, and then we can get you back onto your slides. So one of the questions were, do you have to ask your GP to do a blood test to measure your vitamin D? Is that something you have to ask for, or will they tell you to do a blood test?
No, they won't. They are discouraged from doing blood tests by the public health departments around the country. The family doctors are discouraged from blood tests of vitamin D. I don't know why, but they are. It's just keeping it in the wraps. I can't understand why it's not being emphasized. The importance isn't being emphasized. But yes, you can get by blood tests. I think you can get them from pharmacists actually, or you certainly can get them on the internet, and the blood tests are quite good.
So
But,
how do people actually know, if the doctors aren't prescribing blood tests for you? So is the answer to go do self tests or go to a pharmacist to find out what your vitamin D levels are?
Yeah, I would think so. That's sensible. Yes, indeed.
Okay. And something that we're advised to do is to put sunscreen on, in the summer as the weather gets warmer to,
Yeah.
avoid, irritations and skin cancers. What, I mean, for Asian people with darker skin, what's your general advice to them? I mean, we're going to be careful on the one hand to make sure we don't get, cancer of the skin. But on the other hand, we've sort of been told to take vitamin D. Is there any general, side that you sit on here in terms of advice?
Well, sunscreens are generally speaking overused in this country. There's no question about that. Avoid sunburn, certainly. And it's as well, you can use clothes rather than sunscreen. The sunscreen needs to be on the face. It's the face that mainly gets the impact of the sun. When it comes to sun cancer, skin cancers, the melanomas are reduced in people who have a good blood level of vitamin D. Vitamin D is protective against melanoma, but the other small cancers on the face, I don't think I've ever seen one in anybody with a dark skin. But yeah, I put sunscreen on my head because I'm bald. So in the summer, the sun's shining down on my head. It will make me sunburned. So I don't always want to wear a hat. So I will put sunscreen on my head every morning. But don't put it on anywhere else on my body.
Yeah. Interesting. So you
Don't,
talked about measures of vitamin D, and there's the American measurement, the
yeah.
European measurement. What could you sort of explain that once more again? What is it, the measure that people need to achieve in terms of the supplements they're taking? What is it?
Well,
What's a good measure?
with the unit in this country is nanomoles per litre, and it's between 100 and 150. Get to 100 nanomoles per litre.
And
Nice round number.
get to 100, and so whatever supplement you take, get to 100 nanomils
That's right.
equivalent. Okay. And is there such a thing as having too much vitamin D? Which one? And
Very
I'm
rare.
posing these questions on behalf of other people, just so you know, it's in the chat. Is there such a thing as having too much vitamin D? Because some individual has been told, Ranjit Gahia has been told they've got too much vitamin D in their body.
That's very, very rare indeed. I wonder what was the blood level? Does he know his blood level?
Well, I can invite Ranjit to maybe comment on it. Ranjit, are you able to comment on this? It sounds like you're in a unique position. No,
Mm,
can't get them on there. But
right.
it's so the question was, is this normal? But from what you're saying, Dr. Grimes, it's not normal to have too much. So we don't know the background for this individual.
Very rare. But the
Yeah.
point is, if we get blood levels done, we know when we've got too little and we know when we've got too much. We
Mm,
don't get blood levels done. We don't have any useful information about it at all.
yeah. Um, it's This is interesting, and I wasn't aware of this. But and again, I'm going through the questions because I think we are going to take more questions. We're going to let you get back to your presentation, but let me go through these questions, and then we'll go back to your presentation. So,
Okay.
one of the participants, Asha, has said that she's read that K2 and magnesium is needed for vitamin D to work.
No.
If that is the case, what are the levels?
That's not actually true. That what is stated is that if we have too much vitamin D, then it increases the calcium level in the blood. And the calcium can then be deposited in the tissues. This is really theoretical. And the vitamin K2 prevents that from happening. But I don't take K2 and I don't take magnesium. And I just take vitamin D because I know I'm deficient in vitamin D, or at least I was 30 years ago or thereabouts. And so I'm happy just to take vitamin D. And to my mind, it works.
Yeah.
But if people want to take magnesium and K2, if they're advised to do so by somebody else, it will do no harm, take it.
Okay, so from your experience, vitamin D supplements is sufficient, but if individuals have been advised to take K2 and magnesium, then
Yeah,
it will do them no harm. So
that's
I
right.
don't know, Asher and Sally, you both commented on that, so hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Vit-
read another.
Vitamin K2 and magnesium it's just coming in over the past few years. And I was doing all my research well before that. And I've not researched into K2 and magnesium. I spend all my time researching vitamin D itself. Anyway, as I say, people can take it if they want to.
Excellent. Well, Asher, one more question, then we'll let you get back with your presentation. So again, on vitamin D supplements, is there a good time to take these supplements, or it doesn't really matter what time of the day you take?
It doesn't matter.
It
As I
doesn't
say,
matter.
you can just take it once a week,
Yeah.
which is what I do. Just take it every Sunday morning.
Okay.
Just as, and if I forget it on the Sunday, I'll take it on the Monday, etc. And so it goes on. Yeah. It's
Okay.
quite slowly acting, which is why you don't need to take it frequently. Very slow acting.
What does that mean, slow acting? Does that mean to absorb into your blood? Is very
Yeah.
it takes time?
Usually,
That's okay. Sorry. I was
I've
just
got
I
a
was,
good voice, I'm afraid. I've had not a bad, but it's a troublesome respiratory infection over the past few days.
oh no.
Anyway, what?
I, you were just saying that you take it once a week and it's sort of slow reacting vitamin. I was just saying, is it just takes time to absorb into your blood system?
Yeah, once it gets into the blood system,
Mm.
it then has to go through the liver. It has to go through the liver, the part activated, and that liver process is slow. And after taking a dose of vitamin D by mouth, it can take 3 or 4 days before the liver activation has taken place. That's the rate limiting part of it all. So it doesn't work straight away. It works after a few days. Although, as it's activated by the liver, there is a form of vitamin D called calcividiol, which has been activated by the liver, and that acts immediately within 2 hours. But that's normally not necessary.
Okay. I was going to let you get on with your presentation, but I know we've got one question where someone's raised their hand. I think
Let's do that.
let's invite him in. So, Uttam, do you want to go ahead with your question for Dr. Grimes?
Yeah, thanks very much, Dr. Grimes. It's an excellent presentation on vitamin D. Couple of questions. You have raised the issue of vitamin D, and during the COVID period, there was quite a lot of silence on that particular subject. And has this particular silence been discussed in the COVID inquiry at all? Have you brought it up in the COVID inquiry to address this so-called silence?
No, the COVID inquiry made no mention whatsoever of vitamin D.
Which is sad. The other thing that I just wanted to raise is that, and to confirm what you have said before, from last year's presentation, I work with a colleague actually, and I mentioned your talk to him. And as you mentioned, the vitamin D levels are not routinely done in the hospitals. So he went to the local chemist shop and he got his vitamin D levels done. And they were extremely low, very, very low. And he started to buy vitamin D and self treat himself, you see. So again, it's just it just confirms that the population at large, the vitamin D levels are extremely low. So that was a good thing, and he was quite grateful for your talk in that particular respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very, very good story. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Dr. Grimes, Utham is a pharmacist in a hospital in Wales. So
Yeah.
he sees this firsthand, which is so it's good to get your insight, Utham. Thank you for that. I'll let you get in with your presentation, Dr. Grimes.
Okay. We're going to be moving beyond COVID-19 in a moment. Now then, what's happening here? We've seen that. Yeah. Well, this is just one study from Israel. Now, the blue lines, the blue columns, represent people who were critically ill on intensive care on account of COVID-19, back to 2020. These are they. And we can see that 90% had blood levels less than, actually, that's something on my screen now. I've lost it. Oh dear. I don't know what's going on now, but there we are. There we are. That's it. They all had low blood levels, and no people with these high blood levels, 100 to 110, or 100 or more than 100, none of this group had critical COVID-19. All the critical COVID-19 patients were with very, very low levels of vitamin D. Just another expression of it. Now, we'll move on. Toby Thomas is she's the health and inequalities correspondent in The Guardian, and she's very, very good. Unfortunately, she's a sociologist with no knowledge of science or of biological science, but she finds a lot of things. Black children suffer more complications after appendix surgery. Black children 4 times more likely to experience complications after appendicitis surgery than the white counterparts. She will look for racism as a cause of this, but it's not racism. And this is the big study done. This was in 2004, I think. No, 2022. Postoperative complications. But the risk was there independent of the child's socio-economic status. That's the important thing. It requires urgent investigation. And this professor said again, health inequality, further evaluations and interventions are required. And here's some good information. Now, this information goes back to 2014, and it's about postoperative infections. Now, the line shows the people getting hospital-acquired infections after an operation. And we can see if the vitamin D level on the lower scale is very, very low, there's about half the people get an infection risk. And as the vitamin D level goes up, we can see the risk of infection goes down. And once we get into this range of 100 to 150 nanomoles per litre, virtually nobody gets a postoperative infection. And this has been known since 2014. But not many people know it, unfortunately. But here it is, quite clear. Are people happy with that graph, understanding what it means?
I mean, it's interesting you say that. So, if people don't understand, please can they say? But just to give Dr. Arms a pause, I was reading Sally's message, and about her taking vitamins, and to her, vitamin D has been a game changer. Sally, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Are you happy to come on and tell people your experience of what's happening and why you're getting less cold and your immune system is better?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can't see you. Can hear
Okay,
you.
hang on. Let me just put the video on. I've
Yeah.
just been right. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. Yes, it's one of a few things actually. I was I have quite a story because about 20 years ago I was bedbound with ME. I've come a long way since then. I won't go into it all now because it is a long story. Um, B12 injections helped one of the main things that changed my life, and one of the second biggest ones was the vitamin D. That really, I couldn't believe what a difference. Well, both of them actually. But when I was a child, I was off school a lot. I was in the medical room. I just didn't know what it was like really to have a full health, Um, and at the drop of a hat, I remember many Christmases being in bed, and it just used to take me so long to recover. I'd be for weeks on end. I just thought that was normal. And now I'm 67 this year, and I'm really more healthy than I've been for many years. So that's another thing.
Do you put that down to vitamin D? Were you tested for that, or were you?
Um,
How did you get onto the vitamin D
to be
path?
honest with you, I basically had to become pretty much my own physician. The whole thing with the ME, because unfortunately doctors aren't trained in that, and my doctor who diagnosed me actually was quite honest with me and helped me um, explain some of that. And he did say to me, "You're going to have to go and do your own research," but he actually did me a very big favour by telling me that. I've always been a bit of a researcher anyway and interested in health stuff. Um, but I wasn't really well enough to go and research. But that's what I had to do. Bit by bit by bit by bit, I started reading up, researching, and the vitamin D. I think after joining the finding out about researching about vitamin B12, sorry, vitamin B12, I then got not sort of too long after that, I made a link with magnesium as well, which was another big one. Um, with I joined vitamin D groups, various vitamin D groups, and started researching about that. And I just couldn't believe the difference it made. I wish I'd known that years ago.
So, Sally, someone's asked, what type of dosage are you taking of vitamin D?
Oh yeah, so I wrote in the chat actually. Um, I have researched, and I'm in a group with doctors as well, and there's been information on there to get that some people have gone up to 50,000 if they're really ill. Sometimes it depends. Like I do daily in the winter, I do 10,000 IU. In the summer, I drop it down to 5,000. But then sometimes it will depend. If today I've had a nice day. I've been outside and caught some sun. So this is the sort of time when I'll start thinking about lowering back down again. And I would even miss it out. Maybe if I had enough sun, but it's hard to get. My body tells me. So I've learned to listen, and with everything really. Uh, so no, any tests I've done, to be honest with you, I will go and get a blood test done just out of interest, really. But I tend to listen to my body. That's helped me a lot in showing me, along with the research I've done and other people's stories as well. But that has helped me a lot.
Thank you, Sally. Listen, thank you so much for sharing
That's
that story. I
okay.
think it's great. And coming back to Dr. Grimes, to your chart, it's interesting, people with darker skin would even more benefit from vitamin D. And what you're saying in this chart is people, with high levels of vitamin D fare better against infections in the hospital environment and post-surgery. Is that,
Yeah.
that's what this chart is saying, right?
If anyone's going to have an operation, they should be put on vitamin D routinely before the operation to reduce the risk of a post-operative infection.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Interesting,
This is,
interesting.
this is existing knowledge, but there
Yeah.
we are. Okay.
If it is existing knowledge, then why is it not practiced routinely? This is the first time I've seen that particular chart, but I've never seen that routine implementation of vitamin D levels in patients going for surgery.
No, I have no idea. I have no idea. It's a matter of how information is spread. Most information is spread through the medical profession by pharmaceutical companies, but they don't do vitamin D.
Yeah, they don't know. There's nobody out there promoting vitamin D. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
And
It should be promoted by public health bodies. If people are interested in the health of the population, they should know about this, but they probably don't.
an interesting doctor, someone, a lady by the name of Daksha, has raised the question. She says, what can be done by, community groups like ourselves, to influence, local public health and ICB to take positive actions about health inequalities and vitamin D issues? What can we do? How can we spread this message, and what influence can we have?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. Tell your family doctors.
Yeah, tell the family. So I mean, one of the things we're going to talk about in the summary is let's get, blood tests done. Let's get tests done and get your measurement of vitamin D in your blood system to see where you are. But let me let you continue on with your presentation, please, and we'll come back to some more questions.
We'll see something else like this shortly.
Okay.
Right. Again, this is the article. Low blood levels of vitamin D associated with adverse outcome after a variety diverse surgical procedures. Surprising feature of this review, the diversity severity of increased risks of detrimental outcomes, again emphasizing bad surgical outcomes with low levels of vitamin D. Graft failure, that's in transplantation surgery, heart attacks, heart failure, length of stay, very important length of stay in hospital, 1 year mortality after surgery, all bad with vitamin D deficiency. Yeah. To put all this right is negligible cost and total safety and efficiency. Yeah, the ethical implication of not testing for vitamin D and not treating low vitamin D status in advance of surgery. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is great advice here. So I don't know if people can see this, but hopefully they can, because I can. So your advice here is, if you're going to go into surgery,
Yeah.
start taking vitamin D 1 month before surgery,
Yeah.
and check blood levels before admission. Is that what you're saying here?
But if people know they're deficient in vitamin D, they're correcting it anyway. When people know they're deficient, they don't do nothing, they correct it.
Mhm.
Emergency surgery, the calcifediol, the rapid acting version. Yeah, so easy. Birth complications, 2024, birth complications. Black women, 5% of all deliveries, 26% of major complications. And we know about this because there's been a lot of trouble about poor outcome from maternity care, babies dying when they shouldn't do. Again, black babies twice as likely to be stillborn. It's just awful. more likely to die in pregnancy. Women should not die in pregnancy. Here we are. Khalil, Professor Khalil, what does she say? I'm not surprised. Women from a black background have a higher risk of preeclampsia and hypertension. Complacent vice president of the Royal College. She's not saying this is shocking, we must do something about it. Just says the cause is multifactorial. And so she kicks the can down the road. We've got to have a multidisciplinary approach. Well, that means decisions will never be made. Healthcare professionals and doctors cannot fix the problem on their own. They can do. That's the point. That's wrong. They can do. People need vitamin D. Here we are. Yes, in this one, vitamin D, 50,000 units every 2 weeks was given. And the incidence of preeclampsia was almost double in the controls. So this reduced preeclampsia. That's the big problem in a pregnant woman, reduced by vitamin D. Yeah, another one. NHS birth investigator. If births are investigated, it means something's gone very wrong. And again, it was in the black people. Again, this looks good. Purely down to institutional racism. That is rubbish. It's biological. A baby's mother's chance of survival determined by the colour of the skin. Well, it is effectively determined by the colour of the skin because that colour of the skin determines vitamin D production. We must act. Then you get the political ideas. The previous government has done nothing, absolutely nothing to tackle it. Well, the government isn't going to stop women from dying in pregnancy. I'm afraid it's always, blaming the government isn't helpful at all. We want to know why the poor child was born. She died, mother and baby both dying. That's just dreadful.
Can we take a few more questions, Dr. Graham?
Yeah.
Someone's mentioned that taking vitamin D supplements may affect their kidney functionality. Is that possible? Is that the case, or what do they need to be doing?
No. That is what's said. There are a lot of people in high places try to put us off vitamin D by saying it's dangerous. Well, not true.
Okay. So this is a question by Sonal. Sonal, are you able to share what's happened? Were you told about this directly by your GP or by a surgeon? Okay, maybe not. If Sonal, if you want to come on a bit later on and explain, that would be great.
What it is.
Go on, sorry.
People sometimes get kidney stones made of calcium. And there's a theoretical possibility that too much vitamin D will produce kidney stones. In practice, it doesn't happen.
Okay. And from what you're saying, is there a risk of having too much vitamin D or not really?
The vitamin D, too much vitamin D, is staggeringly rare, very rare indeed.
Okay.
It could be because people take milligrams rather than micrograms, which I mentioned, avoid these micrograms. It's just so rare. Now, a previous person did mention taking 50,000 units of vitamin D a day. That is, to my mind, too much.
Yeah,
No question.
I think Sally was talking about 10,000 in the
No,
winter.
sorry,
Oh.
that wasn't a day. One of the doctors mentioned about 50,000 if somebody had something like flu, that it would be helpful as a therapy rather than as a daily dose. I take
Fine.
5,000 or 10,000 daily.
Well, I wouldn't take 10,000 daily. I'd just take 5,000 daily if I were you.
Yeah, in the winter I take 10,000, but not in the summer.
I take the same amount winter and summer. It's amazing how little vitamin D we get in the summer in England. We have so much cloud cover. And today, beautiful sunny day, but we weren't producing vitamin D, I'm afraid, because the sun was too low in the sky. The intensity of the sunlight was not strong enough. We only produce vitamin D from April to the end of September.
Zaida has asked a question which is very similar, and she's asking, is taking 10,000 units of vitamin D with K2 sufficient for females? I know you've just mentioned having 5,000 units is sufficient, but with Zaida's question, is there anything else you want to add? And the question again is taking 10,000 units of vitamin D with vitamin K2 sufficient for Asian females?
The color of the skin does not matter with the dose of vitamin D. The need for vitamin D is there with skin color, but the dose required is just the same. White skin, dark skin, all the same. But 10,000 units, to my mind, is too much in a day. It would be appropriate in someone who's very fat, the grossly obese person, because grossly obese people tend to run low blood levels of vitamin D and they need a higher dose. But for people who are not obese, then 5,000 units is as much as should be taken, with or without K2.
Okay, great. Oh, lots of interesting questions. Do you want to continue with your presentation, Dr. Grimes?
I want to just go on to this.
Yes, yeah, go for that, please.
Similar graph than last time, the risk of preeclampsia. Now, do people know what preeclampsia is? It's a hypertensive disease of pregnancy, basically. And there's a high risk to it. And it's got terrible outcomes. When mothers and babies die, this is the reason for it. And what we can see here is if mothers have very low blood levels of vitamin D, then they're about a half chance of having preeclampsia. And as we move up, we find the risk of preeclampsia goes down. And when we reach this 100 nanomoles per litre, we can see there the risk of preeclampsia is very low. At 150, it's virtually non-existent. So what should be happening is that every time a woman books in for maternity care, being pregnant, she should immediately have the blood level of vitamin D taken, as she has a blood hemoglobin taken, and she should be given vitamin D in the same way she's given iron and folic acid. It should be a routine part of care of pregnancy, but it isn't, unfortunately. It is in some places, I believe, but generally speaking, it isn't. But to reduce the risk of preeclampsia in pregnant women is one of the best things we can do. And it also means that when the baby is born with adequate vitamin D in its body. Otherwise, it will be vitamin D deficient and then a sickly child, which is not a good idea. So vitamin D in pregnancy, very, very important. And if there are any young women who are likely to be pregnant, who are pregnant, listening in, vitamin D is very important to you. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, thank you. We've got a hand raised. Priti, you've got your hand raised or had your hand raised. Do you want to ask a question to Dr. Grimes?
Yeah, I'll answer the question certainly now. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Sorry, good evening. Just a very quick question. Is it imperative to take vitamin K with the vitamin D, or it doesn't really matter in terms of absorption to the bones?
No, really, the use of vitamin D, sorry, the use of K2 with vitamin D is not very well researched. But I don't think it's essential. But if you feel it should do, then do so. If somebody tells you to take K2, do so. Okay. Should we move on?
Yeah, Priti, does that answer your question? I think it must do. Thank you. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Just going back, preeclampsia, pregnancy hypertensive disorder is the new name. Mental illness as well, between black and white mothers. This is very serious. But there is a great deal of evidence of brain problems in people who are vitamin D deficient. I think we can skip through this really, just make that point.
Yeah.
And making it socioeconomic difficulties, etc. wasn't true. Transplantation. Black Asian patients less likely to survive transplantation. Again, big problem. Just saying here, is this due to vitamin D deficiency? I don't know. With cancer patients and stem cell patients, generally speaking, people with low vitamin D levels do not do as well. And that's well established. Yeah. Again, I don't like to see these ethnic differences. But there is this issue that the dark skin prevents vitamin D production in the skin. Doesn't prevent it absolutely, but reduces it. And of course, South Asian ethnic children or mothers, they often are extensively dressed as well, with very little exposure of the skin to the sun. We'll skip that. Is following transplantation is this: antibiotics plus immunity. Immunity requires vitamin D. This is the thing. Immunity does not work unless you have vitamin D. Let's say prostate cancer, yeah. There's been shown in a number of studies low vitamin D levels associated with cancers, prostate cancer in particular, breast cancer, colon cancer. What are the others? I'm not quite sure now. Lung cancer. Yeah. We can get through that. Lupus. That's autoimmune disease. Again. Another health disparity. Health disadvantage. Huge. Again, the risk of admission to hospital on account of autoimmune disease lupus. Very different. But people have not even thought of vitamin D. At least the important people haven't. I would have thought a consultant rheumatologist of South Nation ethnicity would be aware of the potential of vitamin D. But he seems to know nothing about it.
So, Dr. Grimes, can I just ask? I know it's sort of 7:45. How much more of your presentation do we have?
But they're finished now.
Okay, thank you.
Tooth decay. Again, we know that vitamin D is vital for good dental health. That's terrible. In young Asian children, tooth decay. Official failure to take dentistry seriously. Well, to take vitamin D seriously. This is the problem. Failure to take vitamin D seriously for people in high places. End-stage kidney failure. Again, very much more common in people of South Asian ethnicity. Talk about kidneys. Well, the kidney disease is, generally speaking, so-called autoimmune. Vitamin D. That's one reason why I got into the subject. Health disadvantages, maternal deaths, stillborn babies, preeclampsia, puerperal mental illness, podophyll infections, prostate cancer. Then we've got rickets, osteomalacia, that's growing bone in children, toddlers, tuberculosis, diabetes, coronary heart disease, metabolic syndrome, and so it goes on. And the shorter lifespan, 30 years shorter lifespan, don't forget that. To solve a problem, try to find the simplest possible solution and a unifying explanation. Occam's razor, William of Ockham of the 14th century. We've got a simple solution which unifies all the diseases, disadvantages, health disadvantages of the South Asian population. It's all there in vitamin D. Does it make sense? Okay, why no action? I can skip through those. Oh, this was very recent. This was a couple of weeks ago, February. Independent investigation into maternal and neonatal death services. Baroness Valerie Amos. Big report, 20th of February. Not a single mention of vitamin D in that report on the outcome from pregnancy. Racism and poor staff relationships, blah, blah. Nothing, no mention of vitamin D. Okay, I think that brings me to an end.
That's fantastic. So look, there's a lot of ground covered and there's a lot for people to digest. There are a couple of questions I wanted to sort of help people answer. What one was for this, you talked about children and the importance of vitamin D in children. At what age should children start taking vitamin D dosages? What is there a general advice for children that you can help with?
Yeah, the advice is they should take it before they're born.
Yeah.
No child should be deficient in vitamin D at birth.
Yeah.
None at all.
Okay.
Take it. If they're born with adequate vitamin D, they're going to be much healthier as children.
Fantastic.
Now, sometimes in children, drops are given. Babies can have drops of vitamin D.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into that in detail because I don't know the appropriate doses.
No.
So
I think we've learned a lot and covered a lot of ground. I want to sort of summarize and then thank Dr. Holmes after that. So important. I mean, a lot of people aren't talking about vitamin D. I mean, Dr. Grimes has shared recent reports of post-COVID of incidences of where, people of darker skin have weaker immune systems, suffer more medically, etc. His advice is vitamin D can solve a lot of these problems. Okay, we know that generally you can't have too much vitamin D, so there's actually no real reason why we shouldn't be, one, getting blood tests done, finding our vitamin D levels, and two, supplementing the vitamin D in our body. Okay, it sounds very, very simple. If the practitioners are not going to advise us, then I think sometimes we have to take these matters into our own hand and seek our own advice. I mean, Sally is the best example of that, where she sought her own advice and consultation. So let's all get vitamin D up, right? That's the most important thing. And what Dr. Grimes is basically saying, the evidence he found during the COVID pandemic was that people with darker skin and certain ethnicities suffered more. And that's sort of borne out through history. Recent examples, again, he's explained to us that people of darker skin suffer, women in birth situations. He's mentioned a lot of other diseases where the tendency is that people of certain ethnicities and color of skin suffer more. And his view is get vitamin D. It may solve all our problems. So I wanted to sort of summarize that. Is there anything else more you want to say, Dr. Grimes, in summarizing your presentation?
Well, I'd just like to apologise for my very, very croaky voice, which was not helped at all, and also for finding my computer was running out of power, but I fixed that pretty quickly.
No.
So I apologise if my if my voice has been very croaky as it is.
No,
Otherwise,
no. Thank you very much. Don't worry about that. That's fine. This is very, very common. So look, you've had just under 100 people join this seminar today, Dr. Grimes. So hopefully we've helped educate a lot of people. Thank you once again for joining GAA London with the health webinar. I found it informative, and the combination of sort of practical advice together with some of the empirical advice has been brilliant. Thank you so much. This is being live streamed and it will be available. It's recorded. So for those of you that would like to have a playback, it's going to be available. And I think without further ado, I'd just like to say good night to everyone. Have a great evening. Stay healthy, and see you next Thursday for our follow. It won't be a follow-up session, but another session. Dr. Grimes, thank you so much.
Okay, I'll just say that I covered a lot of ground, perhaps too much ground, but it's a big subject. If you want me to come back sometime on a more targeted approach, I'll gladly do so.
Yeah, and I want to share some of the feedback that you're getting. So you've been told the information that you've given, Dr. Grimes, is very informative, brilliant presentation. Thank you. Thank you for your advice. Again, lots of individual, you can see them in the chat, but I'm just reading them out to you. Again, very interesting, very informative. Thank you. An interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone. Have a great evening.
A big
Thanks.
thank you as well to all our attendees for joining us this evening and for your engagement and thoughtful questions. Dr. Grimes, it was lovely to see you again. We hope to find this session valuable and that we will take away at least 1 or 2 key actions to support your health and well-being. Please do continue to share this with friends and family, and we look forward to welcoming you to our future community webinar. Thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Dr. Grimes.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Bye.
Panadol, is recording available?
Yes, it is.
No, thank you very
It
much.
is. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Good night. Take care.
Good night.